Nevertheless, we are so excited. It's the 10-year anniversary, the 10-year celebration out here, Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. I'm just sad that you're not here to experience it with me, Steve, and it's the only thing we can thank is technology here at this point.
I was going to say, don't rub it in. Listen, as much as I love this studio, and trust me, I love this studio. I've been here since the day it opened. I'd rather be with you on location right now. I get it. But paint the picture for me. You're about 25 miles away from us on Zaragoza in East El Paso. How are things going out there for the 10th anniversary?
Yeah, it's a lot of excitement early on. It's the 10-year celebration here in El Paso. They're thanking the Sun City here from 5 to 7, Steve. People are already lining up. They're already showing up out here at 1887 North Zaragoza, out on the far east side of El Paso. And they're already showing up, getting ready to register to try to win Canes for a year. There's going to be 10 winners tonight who get a chance to walk away with Canes for a year cards, and all you have to do is stop by, register between 5 and 7, and then you can earn an opportunity to win Canes for a year. So it's going to be really exciting. There's already people out here. Our partner station, 93.1 KISS FM, the finest. It's our own Iris Lopez is out here as well. Exa is out here, Steve. There's going to be high school cheerleaders, high school bands who are going to be performing close to 5 o'clock. So
wow.
The party is going to get started out here. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, 1887 North Zaragoza.
Sounds amazing out there. It sounds like I can already hear it in the background. It sounds like it's going to be a bit. The party's already starting.
The party is already starting. It's exciting out here. You already see the nice balloon arch that they have out here. They've got a tic-tac-toe game that they're going to be having with all the guests who come out. They've got disco balls out here, which, by the way, disco balls, a very underrated decoration, Steve. I really like them that they've got hung up all around the restaurant.
Yep.
And, of course, Raising Cane's chicken fingers. They're just pumping them out, box combos left and right.
Nice.
Out here in Far East El Paso.
Hey, you want to talk to Gator Richard to start off the show?
Oh, that sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. Hopefully you can hear him. Let me pipe him in real quick. 505-6009, our telephone number. Go Gators! What's going on, man?
Go Gators. Operator error. I think that's what's going on with you guys.
Could be. Hang on. Let me see if Adrian could hear that. Do you hear Gator Richard, Adrian?
Loud and clear on my side. Loud and clear.
Oh, wow. He hears you. How about that?
Yeah. He was going to say something like, young Sheldon-like, and it cut out on him.
Well, you know what's the scary thing is that he's much closer to you than I am right now. You can actually make a surprise visit to Canes on Zaragoza and try to win Canes for a year for your daughter, since you sacrificed so much with your life having to take her to and from everywhere every afternoon.
I know. I miss World Series games because of her stupid volleyball thing.
I know. It's, it sucks, man. Just so happens she's a good volleyball player. She won the homecoming queen. What a drag on your life, man. What a pain. That sucks.
I know. Just a girl, but not bad. I mean, she's doing the athletic thing, which kind of keeps me engaged on,
There you
go. Going to her games and cheering her on. I'll say something fun like, "No basket, no dinner," and then all the other parents are like, "Oh!"
Yeah, exactly. They're ready to call Child Protective Services on you. That's right, CPS. Hey, I know you want to talk a little college football, so let's do it.
All right. Well, remember last week when I called and said, "Hey, I've been looking at these tough schedules that the Gators have been playing. They played like 5 top 10 or top 25 teams this season already." And I said, if they win out the rest, I think their resume, because this college, whatever thing that evaluates, the standings. I know the top 5 conferences, they get a bye in the playoffs. But I'm telling you, those other games to get in, they say every week on College Game Day, well, if this team, if the college, what are they called? What are these people called that study this thing and make the final determination? who gets to play or not.
Oh, that's the college football playoff committee. Yes.
Yeah, the committee. Okay, so the committee says, well, we got, BYU, we got all these other, like substandard conference teams that have a good record because they don't play anybody all year. And then you got the Gators, like, hovering around, let's say, ranked 27 or 29 or something, okay? Because, yeah, let's face it, four losses, 5 losses in a season. They're barely squeaking in with a seven-win record. But they gave Tennessee everything they could handle. They gave Georgia, like, no touchdowns the first half, and then of course, their backup quarterback couldn't handle it, the kid from Yale. And then they go to Austin and get blowed out because they're playing their third string. Everybody's hurt. But now that people are getting better and they're playing again, they're a tough team, man. I'm telling you, they're a tough team.
Yeah, they're one of the better 5-5 teams in college football. I'll give you that. But look, they still got to beat Ole Miss at the Swamp. That's going to be a tough challenge. Ole Miss is ranked 9th. Then they get the easy game. They get to go play at Florida State, who's one of the worst teams in college football this year. So who knows? Yeah. Maybe they finish 7-5. That's I didn't think there was any chance that would happen, and now you got a shot. You got a shot.
Well, I mean, you see how you changed your tune from Friday? Like you said, I'm going to go on the record. Absolutely no chance.
Well, there's no chance they're getting into the top 25, even if they beat Ole Miss and Florida State, if that's your question.
Ole Miss is ranked top 10.
They're not getting in. Adrian, can you please talk some sense into Gator Richard here, please?
Oh, my gosh. A 5-win team shouldn't even be in the discussion for a top 25.
With the cheerleaders
there's no chance. There's no chance. Steve, South Carolina is a team that's 7-3. Talk to me when they beat a team like South Carolina. Missouri 7-3. I take those SEC teams more seriously than the Gators right now. Do they play better? Yeah, get your participation trophy and just take that. But as far as actually being a team that goes to the college football playoff, no way. There's no chance when they have had already 5 losses.
You hear that, Richard?
I can hear him on the radio. I had to turn it on because.
Oh my God! You're another one. What? You can't listen on the phones? You got to actually turn it on your radio. What's going on with you?
No, because I can't hear. You and I are talking.
Yeah.
I can't hear what he's saying.
So you can't hear. You cannot hear. Interesting. Okay, so that I know what's going on. Hang on one second. Hang on. A little thing here. If you pull up Richard right now, go ahead. Pull up Richard Alberto on your phones. That means I bet you that's how we're going to have to do this with Adrian there. So let me see here.
He's up there.
Click line 1, Alberto, on your end. I know you don't. There you go. Now you should be able to hear Adrian. Let me know if you can hear him now, Richard.
Yo, Adrian.
Do you hear me?
I hear you.
Do you hear me, Richard? Do you hear me?
Yo, Adrian.
Well, I was saying there's no chance a 5-loss team is getting in the college football playoff. No chance. That's it.
Well, I beg to differ because when it happens, you owe me I don't know, you owe me something big time because it's going to happen.
You already owe us lunch, so there you go. We'll see if it. We'll see.
Yeah, and Adrian doesn't want to go because he's all offended when I call him Young Sheldon. Season 6.
Is that what? Hey, by the way, are we actually
not offended at all?
Are we actually in season 6 of Young Sheldon? I've lost track already. I don't even know how many seasons there's been. So that's good.
You got Young Sheldon that's on there with Schoolyard Sports, and then you got Young Sheldon season 6 or season 7. I'll give him season 7 because his voice is changing, and that's Adrian.
Well, Adrian, please. He's 28 years old. I would hope his voice has changed by now. But all right, Richard, appreciate the call, man. Thanks for getting in today. We'll say goodbye to Richard, and we'll leave it at that. Can Alberto actually get rid of the call? Let's see. Give it a shot. There you go. Now you got it. All right, it's a good start to the show in a very weird way. There you go. It's Gator Richard. Look, they're not making the top 25 if they win these last 2 games. If they be 7-5, they'll be bowl eligible, and that's an accomplishment in itself for Florida, given the way their season's gone, Adrian.
There's a lot of teams out there, Steve, that are going to be in that discussion to be in the college football playoff. Remember, it's only 12 teams. SMU is in that discussion, outside looking in. Texas A&M, 8-2, outside looking in as it stands right now. And then you figure there's going to be a team out of the Big 12 who makes it to the CFP. Colorado right now, 8-2. They're 16th in the college football playoff ranking. I'm curious to see what happens with them when it's all said and done, who they play in the Big 12 championship game when it's all said and done. And then, of course, do you take a 3-loss SEC team over a team like SMU? I don't know. Those are going to be tough discussions that the committee will have. Not if a 5-loss Florida team is going to make the playoffs, Steve. Not
very
those
true.
kind of discussions.
Hey, very true. We got a lot to talk about on the show today. In fact, we're going to talk about what's going to happen tonight at the Thunderdome in Santa Barbara. The Miners are going to take on undefeated UCSB on the road. Game gets started at 8 o'clock. We'll have it for you with John Teicher calling the action here on 600 ESPN El Paso. The game's also going to be on ESPN+. Adrian, we have a lot to unpack today about this UTEP UCSB game that's going to be going on in about 3 hours. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll get Jay Jaffe up next to talk a little baseball and some beer. Excited to have Jay back after about a month. But first, as we get going here on Sports Talk, let's send it over to Charlie One. He has our first traffic update of the afternoon. Charlie. All right, welcome back, everybody, as we continue here on Sports Talk. Steve Kaplowitz with you. We'll get back to Adrian a little bit later in the hour as he's hanging out at Raising Cane's out there on Zaragoza for their 10-year celebration. In the meantime, we got a little celebration of our own because joining us on our 600 ESPN El Paso Longhorn Distributing Hotline is Jay Jaffe. First time we've had a chance to talk to Jay in quite a while. Hey, welcome back. Hope all is good with you. And as far as baseball goes, I guess it's all about Hall of Fame and awards right now, right?
Yeah, I'm deep into my Hall of Fame era committee ballot series for the long retired veterans. I'm actually I got one more profile to do, a Negro League star named John Donaldson, and kicked off the writer's ballot festivities earlier this week when that was released by the Hall. I'll start with the profiles of that on Friday with Billy Wagner, with Ichiro to follow on Monday.
By the way, I want to talk about the era committee because I think it is an important one to get to. In fact, why don't we start that off now, because they're going to meet in about, 2.5 weeks at the winter meetings in Dallas. But it's an interesting list, Jay, because some names we're very familiar with. Dick Allen is one, Ken Boyer's another, and then more contemporary names like Steve Garvey, Tommy John, Dave Parker, Luis Tiant. And then you've got players like Vic Harris and John Donaldson to round out the list. So to me, it's interesting because it spans a bunch of different eras. And let's talk about this, because it seems like this is what? Essentially, is there a certain time range that a lot of these candidates were from?
Yes, this is for candidates who made their mark before 1980. And I think that's really way too broad when you're lumping in, stars of the recent past that we grew up watching with Negro League stars, where very few people who are still alive got to see them. To me, I think those take two different levels of expertise to break down, and it's tough to compare, Dave Parker with Vic Harris or something like that. That said, I do have some pretty strong opinions on who should and who shouldn't be on the voters' ballots here. So,
by the way, Parker's a tricky one because he came up in the mid-'70s and played pretty much the entire '80s. So I know it's prior to '80, and he was already really a star by '79. You had the We Are Family Pirates with him and Willie Stargell. But I look at his career, and I feel like he spent more time after 1980 playing baseball than he did before '80. Everybody else, though, I feel like is pretty much in that category because even though Steve Garvey played through the mid-'80s to late '80s, he was a rookie in '70 or '71 with the Dodgers and spent that whole '70s decade at first base.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Parker's best years were 75 to 79, and that's where he accrued most of his value. That's where he won his batting titles, his MVP award. I'm a little surprised he is in this group, and Dwight Evans, who started even earlier in the majors,
Yep.
and didn't play quite as long, is in the contemporary group and couldn't even get on the ballot last time. So it's an imperfect system. I've got lots of issues with it. I don't like this cutting the ballots down from 10 to 8, and the number of votes per voter from 4 to 3. But that's what we've got. That's what we got to make do with. And I'm having a hard time because I see about 4 strong candidates on here and one that I'm a little bit softer on. Really, the only 2 that I've completely eliminated from my consideration for a virtual ballot. I don't actually have a vote, but I do know that some of the voters do read my stuff, so I take their responsibility seriously. Are Garvey and Parker? They just don't measure up, to their peers at the position who are in the hall. They would be pretty weak selections, unfortunately. I like Ken Boyer a lot, but man, he hasn't gotten any traction in 3 or 4 previous tries. For as much as I'd like to see him in the hall, I'm not sure the support's there to even justify him being as more than a bystander. The one I feel most strongly about is Dick Allen.
Yep.
He's a yes for me, and Vic Harris is a definite yes for me. He was the best manager in the Negro Leagues. I think 7 consecutive pennants. Also a pretty good outfielder as well, high average spray hitter. You put that together, and he's a very strong candidate. He was actually the top returning candidate from what was the early baseball era committee ballot in 2022 when Buck O'Neill and Bud Fowler were elected. So I'm hopeful that he gets in. Where I'm really having trouble then is the 3 pitchers trying to figure out Luis Tiant versus Tommy John versus John Donaldson. Tiant is by far the better pitcher in the major leagues than Tommy John, but Tommy John has the surgery named after him. John Donaldson was a barnstorming superstar who really didn't make much of a mark in the major Negro leagues, but pitched forever and had a pretty unique career. So I have to make up my mind about that by the next 24 hours here for my publication.
Yeah, Donaldson is tough because when you really look at his numbers, gosh, I mean, did he make more of his mark as a pitcher versus as a hitter?
Well, he did make more of his mark as a pitcher, but it was barnstorming. It was numbers. He was beaten up on semi-pro teams, and he'd pitch, 200 games a year. It was just remarkable the volume that he would assume. But he wasn't, he was beating your local, tool and die semi-pro teams as opposed to, the best in the Negro leagues. And that's where I think I kind of struggle with his case a bit. So I haven't, I have to go through his profile to re-edit it and update it for this year. And I'll give that some thought.
It's so interesting to me because you're right. I mean, I feel like Dick Allen of that group is the one name that stands out among everyone else. The pitchers are fascinating to me. In fact, when you look at Tommy John versus Luis Tiant, let's just take those 2 for example. I know John has longevity, and so did Luis Tiant. Who came closer during their active years in trying to get into the Hall, or did both of them pretty much fall well short?
Well, I think you look at Tommy John. Tommy John had 288 wins versus I think it's 229 for Tiant. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Tiant was better at run prevention, struck out more hitters, had a greater postseason impact. Neither of them ever won a Cy Young. Tiant might have come in second in 1968 if there were actually more than one vote per ballot. He had a 160 ERA that year, but that was the year Denny McLain won 31 games, and the wins kind of trumped everything else. Neither of them got a ton of support on the writers' ballots, though. It's really kind of it's the surgery that I think people focus on with Tommy John, and it's not an insignificant consideration. The other thing I think about, and I'm kind of struggling with this now, is we've seen the Hall voters miss the boat so many times, electing guys after they've passed away.
Yeah,
I don't know that I feel strongly enough about Tommy John to vote for him, but boy, he's 81 years old, and I would be kind of bummed if he eventually gets in and he's not around to accept it. And for that alone, I'm kind of wavering here on the strength of my convictions. But whereas Louis Tion just passed, I mean, I think obviously there's unfortunately a long-standing tradition of seeing guys get in right after they die. I don't know that I want him to be part of that. It's a tough, it's a consideration I did not expect to have to weigh when I set out writing this series.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, Louis Tion was a 3-time All-Star. Twice he won the ERA title. Tommy John was a 4-time All-Star, and I think he finished second in the Cy Young Award voting twice after the surgery, I might add. That's another thing.
Yeah.
He never won 20 games before the surgery, and then after the surgery, he had, I believe, 3 seasons with 20 or more wins. So, and he pitched forever. He pitched till he was 46 years old, which that's like Phil Niekro territory we're talking about here, Jay.
Yeah, I mean he was ageless, and because he wasn't striking out guys. He was a kind of a pitch to contact guy, but he was able to just do it forever, and he was pretty solid. But those were a lot of kind of back of the rotation years where he was just eating a ton of innings, and did have value, but it wasn't star caliber, and that's how he got close to 300 wins.
Would you be shocked? Now, listen, I was shocked when Harold Baines got into the Hall of Fame. So I don't know how Garvey and Parker compare to Baines, if they both fall well short of what Harold did as a player. But I've decided that after Harold Baines gets into Cooperstown, anything is possible.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. There's not a whole lot that would truly surprise me out of this. There's just about any result. I mean, the fact that Parker and Garvey are back when they fared so poorly on previous ballots, it could go any one of a number of ways. I do think this is probably Dick Allen's best shot, because to me, he is a really strong candidate in a field that does not have any obvious slam dunks. So I'm hopeful, because I've put a lot of myself into trying to get him in. He was in the casebook, the Cooperstown casebook, and I've promoted him multiple times, hoping that he would get in. And I really would like. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago before he could get voted on. I mean, he missed by 1 vote twice.
I know, it's terrible.
It's tough.
I'm with you. Jay Jaffe with us as we pitch past the bottom of the hour here on Sports Talk. Now, the regular Hall of Fame ballot was also released this week. The 2 names that really stand out the most for first-timers are Ichiro Suzuki and also CC Sabathia. I know Ichiro is a lock. Do you feel like Sabathia will also get in on the first ballot?
I think it's going to be close. I think he's going to get in eventually. I don't have, I feel like when you consider the bulk weight of his accomplishments, so to speak, we're just not going to see guys striking out that many hitters and pitching that many innings anymore. He was a guy who would give you, 240 innings a year. We're just not seeing that anymore. We might have a guy winning the Cy Young with 133 innings here in Paul Skeens.
Yep.
I haven't checked on the announcement, so we may already know that answer here. But Sabathia was a money pitcher. I mean, he was a big game pitcher, helped the Yankees win a World Series, helped Cleveland get to the ALCS, helped Milwaukee, put that Milwaukee team on his back in half a season, was pitching every 4th day down the stretch to get them to their first playoff appearance in I think it's 26 years. I mean, he adult-sized portions for CeCe all the way across the board, and really a compelling narrative as well in terms of, he battled alcoholism, went very public with his battle and hoping that he could help other people, and became a mentor to other black players, and has continued to remain highly visible in that capacity. He was the captain of one of the teams in the East-West All-Star Negro Leagues tribute game that they did at Cooperstown this year, and I thought that was kind of interesting, that he's tied it up already with somebody at the Hall of Fame that they were asking him to do this. I don't know if they're tipping their hand or not, but I do think as if he were in the Hall of Fame, he would certainly be somebody who would stick out as being a very visible Hall of Famer, and I think that would be good for the institution.
Jay Jaffe joins us from Fangraphs.com as we continue. Do you think Ichiro gets on every ballot? Is he unanimous?
I wish he would, because I think it's time for this non-unanimity thing to fall. It fell with Mariano Rivera, but we need to see it become more routine. Ichiro is not the best player ever, but it's tough to see what the objections are. The guy got 3,000 hits despite not playing his first major league game until he was 27 and a half years old. That run of 10 straight years with 200 hits, all-star appearance, and a gold glove when he first came over, which is remarkable. And he was a great ambassador for the game, and he continues to be a great ambassador for the game. And I think, when you put all that together, I have a hard time seeing why anyone could possibly have an excuse to leave them off the ballot. But I felt that way about Derek Jeter, too. And somebody left him off, and
Yep.
3 people left Ken Griffey Jr. off. And, there's no shortage of idiots in this world, Steve. I think we've gotten an object lesson in that this month already. So there's always somebody to rain on the parade, always somebody to denigrate somebody else's accomplishments, and that's just the reality of it.
Jay, last year, or earlier this year, I should say, Billy Wagner fell 5 votes shy of getting into Cooperstown. You got to feel that Wagner will end up getting in this year. Is there anybody else from last year's ballot, whether it's Gary Sheffield, Andrew Jones, that could make the huge jump and actually join him from the carryover list into Cooperstown?
Well, unfortunately, Sheffield fell off. That was his 10th year last year, so he's not going to. The next closest guy is Andrew Jones, who I think came in at 61.6%. We don't, and then Carlos Beltran at 57 something. We don't see big leaps like that from that point to 75% unless there's kind of a vacuum at the top of the ballot. We've seen Larry Walker make the jump. We've seen Scott Rowland make the jump. Those were kind of special cases when there was nobody else, or a very small group atop, vying for election at that point. It's very hard to imagine one of those guys getting in as the third candidate. When you've got like 2 strong first-year candidates, and a very strong holdover. So, I think both of those guys will position themselves for better results down the road. Beltran got that 57% in his second season. It seems like there's kind of a soft resistance regarding his involvement in the Astros sign stealing scandal. Andrew Jones has just kind of been a slow build from very low percentages. I think we're looking probably at a 9th or 10th year election for him. I don't know I don't think this is their year, but I think they'll be positioned for that honor soon.
All right. Let's talk also about some of the other storylines going on. Juan Soto had met with the Steinbrenners, and Hal called it a good meeting. We've heard that as far as the Mets go, Steve Cohen would outbid any team by $50 million to land Soto. It's crazy. Listen, when it comes to Steve Cohen, money is no object. I am fascinated to see where Juan Soto decides to go when it's all up. It's all up to him to pick, and then how the dominoes start to fall after that.
Yeah, I suspect for Soto, it's going to come down to the 2 New York teams. And I think the Mets are probably more willing to be bold than the Yankees are. I mean, that said, he knows the Yankees. He had a great season with the Yankees. I think Hal Steinbrenner says he understands the assignment. Let's see if he lives up to it. That pairing with him and Aaron Judge is just, boy, it took them all the way to the World Series, and they didn't win, but they were very impressive, and I know Yankee fans would love to have him back.
Yes, he would. Absolutely right. So we'll see what happens there. Meanwhile, Chris Sale has won the National League Cy Young. It's his first Cy Young, Jay. They announced it about 5-10 minutes ago during our segment when it started. I was kind of wondering, could we have possibly seen Paul Skeens pull off the rare double of winning the Rookie of the Year and the Cy Young? He was in the running, and so was Wheeler of the Phils, but hard to fault with what Chris Sale was able to do this year after everything he's been through in his career with the Braves.
Yeah, I agree. I would have tabbed Sale too. I think he had just a tremendous comeback from years of injuries and middling effectiveness, and did everything he needed to do. I mean, 18-3 with a 2.38 ERA, even lower FIP. Did great in the various metrics. The WAR metrics was second in the Baseball Reference version, first in the Fangraphs version. You really can't ask for much more. And what's interesting about this is, Sale has kind of repositioned himself with his comeback.
Yep.
As somebody who now has a shot at the Hall of Fame. He's only got, I think, 138 career wins, but we're not going to see a 200-win guy anytime soon, unless Garrett Cole holds together. We're going to be looking at guys maybe in the 180s. And if Sale gets there, his jaws is pretty good for somebody with the volume that he's got. And, one thing he didn't have was a Cy Young. He'd had a lot of top 5 finishes, but he'd never gotten that first place. And now he's got that. He's got the championship. It's a nice piece of the resume that he just claimed there.
Will Tarek Skubal get the Cy Young for the American League today?
I think it's I don't think it's even close in the American League. I mean, I think he just kind of dominated. And with all due respect to the other guys in the field, like Cole Reagans, I don't even know who else was a finalist. I haven't been paying that close attention, but I think it's probably Skubal there.
Yeah, and by the way, as far as Manager of the Year awards, with Stephen Vogt and Pat Murphy, plus the Rookie of the Year. So far, any issue with any of baseball's awards, or is pretty much everybody getting it right?
I probably would have tabbed Jackson Merrill in the NL Rookie of the Year. I really liked what he did. I mean, this is a guy who skipped AAA entirely, who had never played center field before, had only played 5 games in the outfield last year, late in the season at AA, and just took over that position in spring training and played it well, above average defensive metrics, and had no problem making the transition offensively, became like a stud for the Padres. And had some huge home runs, late inning home runs that helped them get to the playoffs, and really looks like a middle of the lineup threat going forward. I was so impressed with that, and not to take anything away from Skeens. He was brilliant when he pitched, but he was on a short leash. The pressure was not so much on him in terms of doing this in the heat of a playoff race. The Padres needed everything Jackson Merrill could give them, and he gave them so much. And I don't have it. I think it's fine, but that's the way my ballot would have gone. AL, it was nice to see Luis Seal win. I watched a lot of him with the Yankees. Good stuff from him. Managers, the manager of the year is such an amorphous description because it relates more to expectations than it does to achievement. I mean, I think what Dave Roberts did, even before the playoffs, managing around so many injuries, was pretty fantastic. But Murphy did a really nice job. I didn't think the Brewers were going to win that division coming into the year, and once again they pulled it out.
Yeah, I didn't think they were going to win 93 games, especially when a lot of our listeners would have a hard enough time trying to name more than 3 players on their roster. So, it was a pretty big achievement. But, yep, with all the injuries Roberts had, he had a terrific season as well. Really did. If you want to read more from Jay at Fangraphs.com, he's got the classic baseball era committee candidates one by one. He held a chat a few days ago. He also has a story about the current Hall of Fame ballot, which is up. The big questions about it. That's all at Fangraphs.com. Wrap us up with a beer, Jay. How do we wash this segment down this week?
Okay, it's kind of Oktoberfest season still, even though we're in November here. So I've got an Oktoberfest beer. This is the Hereafter from Threes. This is their version of an Oktoberfest lager. It is typically malty, kind of caramel color. 5.5% ABV. That's a nice complexity to it. A little hoppier maybe than your average Oktoberfest beer. Easy drinking. Really nice 4-pack.
Nice. All right. Listen, great to have you back. Enjoyed it, Jay, and look forward to we'll see. We got Thanksgiving next week. Well, we'll plan that. We'll play it by ear, but hopefully we'll get you back again real soon.
Yeah, okay. Sounds great.
Jay Jaffe, folks, as we continue here on Sports Talk. 44 past the hour. We got a lot more still to come. Jeff Erickson in our 5 o'clock hour. Lane Frank is going to be dropping by the studios at 6. And, of course, we'll check in on the one and only Adrian Broadus next. He's hanging out there at Canes on Zaragoza. More Sports Talk right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. All right, we wind down hour 1 here on the show. 2 to go, and I want to send it back out to Adrian Broadus, who has a very special guest. The great Iris Lopez is hanging out with her. Adrian and Iris out at Raising Cane's for their 10th birthday party. I hope the two of you are having a great time right now.
We're having an excellent time so far, Steve. I think the excitement is already boiling over here. There's so many people out here in Far East El Paso, 1887 North Zaragoza to be precise, for the 10-year celebration of Raising Cane's here in El Paso. And it's because it starts soon. 5 o'clock is when it starts. They're going to be registering people to win Cane's for a year. You don't even have to make a purchase out here, Iris. Cane's for a year out here.
That's all you got to do. You just got to come out here. A lot of people are already lining up. It looks like a fun time. And then look, they already have the flag up, and it's just a party out here. And if people aren't familiar with where the location is, it's the Super Walmart right off of the Joe Battle area. I'm familiar with this side, so I know where we're at. But some people maybe far west want to come on this side. Head on out here. It's a party. And the weather's not too bad either.
Please.
Hey,
Iris
we're a little
knows.
bundled up, but I think it's perfect.
Iris knows the whole area. She travels all over El Paso. She does not. She does not shortchange herself anywhere. By the way, are you a box combo girl? Is that what you like? You like the 4 fingers, the coleslaw, and the fries with all the sauce? The cane sauce? What do you go for?
Yeah, I am a box combo, but because I only eat half, and then because I eat like a bird, so I eat half, and then I have some left over for dinner. But yes, the coleslaw, I steal my son's coleslaw too, because he's like, Mom, I don't want it, and I'm like, good, more for me.
There you go. Boy, between you and your son, it's perfect because you could get 1 box combo and now you feed everybody, so it works out for all, right? That's the way to do it.
This is true. This is very true.
I love it. Adrian, how is the crowd starting to build up as we get ready for the big night?
Yeah, the Montwood Spirit team is out here already. We're assuming that they're going to bring over the Ram as well, which is really exciting.
Nice.
They actually have a great setup already. Jenny, who's one of the general managers, she's out here already doing interviews with TV stations. Our partner, or I should say our friends over here at EXA are setting up as well, so it's a great atmosphere. Sergeant Eli from Horizon City Police stopped by, say hi. We also saw Aaron Isleta, 6th grader, stop
He's
by.
hustling. hustling.
Yeah, he's hustling. He's selling some chocolates out here, but he was telling us how excited he is for Dodger baseball, Steve. So he was telling us he's a huge Dodger fan and was celebrating their big World Series win.
And he said he wasn't a bandwagon fan. He's been a Dodgers fan.
Yeah, of course. No bandwagon. I hear that stuff all the time from everybody. I love it. All right. We're going to come back more with Iris, more with Adrian, and Sports Talk. All right, start of hour number 2 here on Sports Talk. George Guajardo along with Alberto Urueta hanging out with us here on the show today. I've seen Alberto now for like the last 10 hours. I rolled in here after 8. He was on the Q Morning Show hanging out with Buzz, Joanna, Nico, and now he's back with us while we've got Adrian Broadus and Iris Lopez out there live on the east side of town at Raising Cane's for their 10th anniversary celebration. Welcome back, you two. I know it's probably starting to get a little chilly as the sun is setting, but I'm expecting a very, very busy 2-hour period between 5 and 7 o'clock as people sign up to win free canes for a year. Isn't that right, Adrian?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Things are already happening out here in East El Paso, 1887 North Zaragoza to be precise. The line is long. People are out here, but registrations are barely getting started for a chance to win canes for a year. The El Paso Rhinos are in the house. A couple of the members just showed up. By the way, I got to snag me one of those El Paso Rhinos polos. Those look fly. I love those right there. Some of the members, some of the team, they're out here. I'm going to make sure that we say hi to them at some point. Also, the Montwood Band is out here as well, so they're getting ready to go. The Horizon City Fire Department has stopped by. They brought out the big flag like Iris Lopez was saying earlier, and just a lot of fun. You could just feel the excitement out here in East El Paso, celebrating 10 years for Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers on the east side.
Oh, I love it. I think that's the way to go. And, listen, we know the kind of reputation that Canes has in El Paso. But, Adrian, it's always a little different when they're celebrating a big birthday like this, isn't it? That's really what, it's more fun to me when all of a sudden you start to see that. So, again, Adrian Broadus hanging out live, Iris Lopez with him as well. We'll check back in a little bit later and see how things are going in Far East El Paso. All right. In the meantime, Jeff Erickson's coming up about 15 minutes from now. So excited about having Jeff back on the show as well from rotowire.com. He'll be on our 600 ESPN El Paso Longhorn Distributing Hotline. Longhorn Distributing has brought back the Pro line of detail products, including Pro Gold, Does All, and more at their store at 5516 East Paisano in the middle of El Paso. It is Longhorn Distributing. Adrian, I like the show today. I like the fact that I'm not sure when you're there and when you're not. It's fun. It's like you're keeping me guessing here today during the program.
Well, they're keeping us guessing out here, and I think it's actually a bit of a power issue as well, Steve. So we've got a bunch of people plugged into one outlet. A little bit of power came off, so I had to restart the power unit over here, and then that's why it hiccuped over on our side. But nonetheless, we're staying on this one. We might hit a little adversity here to start off the hour, but to close out the hour, we're going to be smooth sailing. And by the way, we've got UTEP basketball on deck tonight, so it's going to be a busy night tonight between Sports Talk here live and then Minor Talk after the game here for UTEP men's basketball. So a lot going on here on a busy Wednesday afternoon for Sports Talk.
Let's talk about that. UCSB will be playing the Miners tonight. Again, our coverage starts 7:30, countdown to tip-off. 8 o'clock, this game goes live with John Teicher out at the Thunderdome in Santa Barbara, California. It'll also be on ESPN+. Look, we know what the Miners have done against some of their lesser competition. We also saw them get drilled by 30 against Utah Valley. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really interested to see which UTEP team shows up on the road, and can they make this a game tonight against UCSB?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's crazy. I'm not a big gambler whatsoever, but Ronnie, our resident caller on Minor Talk, was telling me that the line fluctuated all day, Steve. It started, I think, at Santa Barbara, something like 8-point favorites, and then UTEP, the line moved all the way to UTEP being 4-point underdogs. So, again, UC Santa Barbara still 4-point favorites. And then Ronnie just texted me that the line is now back to 7.5 in favor of UCSB. So it seems like it's kind of going all over the place for what people are predicting here tonight. Look, the Gauchos going into this game have won 4 straight. They're a team that I'm pretty concerned about going into this matchup. They played some quality opponents early on in their season. They've got a lot of size and length, and they've also got experience at the D1 level. There are high expectations for this UTEP men's basketball program. That's why I still believe that they should win this game here tonight. But it's going to be an uphill battle for the Miners, who came off a really bad loss to Utah Valley about 2 weeks ago.
Well, let's put it this way. I see 5.5. That's the spread I'm currently seeing. 5.5 points. But if they're going to get it done, I mean, the thing I like about UCSB is they're young. I mean, their leading scorer is a 6'6 sophomore out of Phoenix, Jason Fontanet II, who's averaging almost 15 a game, along with 6 boards. And then they go with a 6'2 senior, more of the veteran leadership, in Deuce Turner, who's at about 12 points a game. And after that, they've got another sophomore, a 6'8 forward, Colin Smith out of Dallas. He's averaging 10 points per game as well. So their top 3 scorers, 1 senior and 2 sophomores. And they do have some size, which makes me wonder how UTEP will be able to handle that. And then they also have a 6'11 senior from Sweden, Kenny Poto, and he's averaging 7 boards along with 10 points. So, again, it's just like we talked about before. Kevin Kalu really needs to stay on the floor, can't get into foul trouble. And if they go 6'10", 6'6", or 6'8", how will UTEP be able to counter that? Because we don't see Derek Hamilton on the floor at the same time as Kevin Kalu most of it. So how will UTEP's guards rise to the challenge? And will Otis Frazier III have a big game tonight?
They're going to need their guards to rebound, Steve. When you tell me size, when you tell me all those things like experience for UC Santa Barbara, the thing I get worried about is rebounding. Remember, this is a UTEP team that just was out-rebounded against UT Permian Basin at home not too long ago, just 8 days ago. And for the Miners, now they got to buckle down practice, kind of retool for this matchup, but it's still the same guys they're going to roll out there with Kalu and Derek Hamilton down low, like you mentioned. That's why Frazier III's got to be the guy who gets rebounds for them, and same with Corey Camper, and same with Trey Horton III. Like, they've got to get a lot of rebounds from those kind of guys and hope that they get production off the glass. If they don't have any production off the glass, I worry about these other players from UC Santa Barbara stepping in and really hurting the Miners in this matchup.
Adrian, they're a good three-point shooting team, too. Fontanet II shooting 50% from downtown, and he's averaging 15 a game. Then you've got a guy like Colin Smith, who's shooting 45% from three-point land, and even another guard in Steven Swanson, who's shooting 35% from three-point land. And coming off the bench, you've got Cole Anderson shooting 61% from three-point land. So that also worries me today. Not just the rebounding, but will the Miners be able to get out and contest some of the outside shots that you'll see from the Gauchos tonight?
Yeah, I mean, UTEP's perimeter defense going into this matchup, I like it. I like David Terrell Jr. guarding some of these sizable players on the other side for UC Santa Barbara. I like Devin Barnes' defensive abilities. He's able to turn people over on defense, but they're going to need a really big game from those two guys, and then everybody else. Like, can Ahmad Bynum also match that intensity that UC Santa Barbara is going to throw from beyond the arc, and can he hit threes? I mean, is the key number like somewhere between 7 and 9 3-pointers for the Miners in order for them to stand a chance to win? I think that kind of might be the case, and if you don't get it from Bynum, then you might have to quickly switch over and hope that you could get it from Baylor Heb or somebody else, maybe even Corey Camper, but you've got to get production on UTEP's side of things for hitting 3-pointers tonight.
So the point is we have a lot of keys. I hear the band in the background right now, so it sounds like to me the band has arrived out of Canes.
Oh, yeah, it's Montwood, and they are getting excited out here. The Spirit team is out as well. There's a lot of people already registering to try to win free canes for a year. They're going to be announcing winners at 7 o'clock, so people will be sticking around in the area seeing who ends up winning. Free canes for a year. They're going to announce 10 winners here today.
Hey, I heard you say something interesting a little while ago, and you talked about how you think this is really a game UTEP should win, despite being a 5.5-point underdog to an undefeated UC Santa Barbara team. Look, I don't know. I feel like this is going to take a while to really get UTEP's identity. Adrian, we might not even find out UTEP's true identity until the start of conference play in January or maybe even into February.
They're going to play 3 games next week on the road in Las Vegas, so we'll at least find out about the character of this team or what kind of rotation they're going to throw out there. But you're right. I mean, the identity of this team is probably not going to be found this week, probably not even next week. They have that really tough 3-game stretch right after that. It's Seattle, then Louisville, and then Tarleton State. Do they find their identity there? I'm not really sure, Steve, but the identity of this team should be a defensive-minded team that can hit some three-pointers, but I don't know if we've seen them hit perimeter shots like they promised over the offseason. And on top of all that, this team wanted to be a better road team, so they've got to prove it here tonight on the road against UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah, I just don't really have high expectations tonight. I'm sorry, I don't. And maybe it's because of that Utah Valley game, and you know, I'm hoping that was just an anomaly early in the season. And maybe that was just one of those games where, you know, they went on the road. It wasn't a good matchup, and for a lot of other reasons, they got blown out in that one. I'm hoping it's a much different game tonight against the Gauchos. But I'll say this, if we see another big result where they get easily handled and end up losing this game by, 15, 20 points, there are going to be a lot of people worried in a big way about this basketball team here this season.
It's understandable, too. This team had high expectations going into this year. I feel like they should almost welcome that. They need to embrace the adversity. They need to embrace all the tough challenges that come their way, because I don't really see it turning any other way if they don't hit some kind of friction points in this season. Look, at the end of the day, we'll sound redundant, but we'll say it again. It matters playing well late in the season because it's a one-bid league in Conference USA. That being said, you also want this team to inspire fans and to get the fan base behind them so they could actually show up to the Don Haskins Center throughout the regular season and not feel like, this team is also another disappointment, or this team is also disappointing the fan base when they're trying to support this group. So I think they also have something to prove to their fans here in these next 4 games away from the Don Haskins Center, Steve. They've got to win some of these games, and they've got to prove to their fans that they can do it on the road.
All right, Adrian, we'll check back in with you a little bit later, but I appreciate the conversation as always, and we'll get some more analysis as we get closer to the ball game here coming up in just about 2 hours, 45 minutes. Although our coverage will start at 7:30 with John Teicher out there from the Thunderdome. Love the name of that arena, and should be a lot of fun with the Miners and the Gauchos tonight. All right, more in a moment as we continue. We'll do a little Jeff Erickson and some RotoWire fantasy talk. If you've got fantasy football questions, now's the time to get that in. As we send it off to Charlie 1, let's find out how traffic's doing with this update. 21 past as we continue here on Sports Talk. All right, approaching the midway point of the show. We'll get back to Adrian in a little bit. Right now, though, want to say hello to Jeff Erickson from RotoWire.com, your one-stop shop for all fantasy sports, as he joins us for our weekly conversation together. And tell you what, this is it's a tough week for fantasy football, Jeff. We've got not just 1 or 2, but 6 teams on buys this week. It's a tough week.
Yeah, it's the bipocalypse, or is it Bimageddon? I always forget which is which, because we have Week 14 is also similarly bad with 6 more teams. And see, half the NFL has got their bye weeks 11, 12, and 14. It's very weighted late this year, way too late for my liking.
Yeah, you're right. And if you own Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, you're screwed. I mean, let's just be honest. Those 2 guys, putting up such great numbers every week. You got to rely on your backups, which I'm sure maybe if we get some phones, some questions on Twitter and X from some fantasy players, we'll give them some advice. But yeah, you look at the way this week is going, and I mean, I don't know. It's funny. Justin Herbert as the third best quarterback against Baltimore this week is an interesting ranking because Herbert doesn't throw for 300 yards a game, but he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions either. That's the one thing I've noticed with him under this new system with Harbaugh. He's become much more efficient, and with Baltimore's pass defense, probably one of the reasons why you've elevated him to number 3.
Yeah, and I think that Baltimore is going to move the ball against the Chargers as well. So I don't think you're going to get into a game where it's an operation shutdown. I think they're going to have to keep on scoring. That's one of the things I like about that game quite a bit. I'm persuaded. It's not just what Herbert did against the Bengals last week. I know it's like hitting with a 2-0 count, right?
Yep.
But he actually has done it against some other good some good defenses earlier, or at least passable defenses. I like what he's doing with his legs now. He's at the peak of his powers, and he's only going to get better if he stays healthy because they're eventually going to surround him with better talent, too.
That's true. That is very true. Jared Goff has been thriving in the Ben Johnson offense for Detroit. So you've got him number 4 this week against Indy. I like that matchup a lot. I feel like Goff has resurrected himself. Let's be honest. I mean, the Rams are dumping him off, just convinced he was not the quarterback they thought he would be, and he's really just made the most of his situation out there with the Lions the last couple of years.
Yeah, he has. Now, he runs into some games where we don't get the huge, massive fantasy production. Sometimes the game flow is an issue. They could get up big on the Colts. But one thing we're seeing with the Lions is they don't let their foot off the gas. Dan Campbell's taken a page out of the Bill Belichick book. And, when the Pats were at the height of their powers, they ran up some numbers sometimes. They were a cover machine because of that. They didn't let up. I think there's a lesson there. I think that the Lions for a while had a hard time finishing games, and I think that they're making a point of finishing games, and that means throwing in the fourth quarter, letting Goff throw for over 400 yards last week. There's something to that there. I think that if they're going to be in the game, let them run the offense.
Yep, and it also means that Jahmyr Gibbs has a chance to be a valuable running back this week, and he's really been valuable all season for Detroit, hasn't he?
He sure has, and he can take any given play, he can make it and turn into an explosive play, and that's what I like. Certain teams, they don't have that player that can do that. The Lions have multiple explosive players.
They do.
Montgomery's the grinded out guy, but he grinds out some chunks. But Gibbs, he's the home run hitter, and it's fun when he gets some space. It's
so true. Nico Collins comes back against the Cowboys, and despite the penalty taken away, his first play touchdown. Here's a guy that they just look so much better in the passing game with C.J. Stroud when he's got a safety blanket.
Absolutely. The slants become a lot more active. Just some chunk plays he provides. It's huge for them. And I know the overall numbers weren't amazing, but he also was on a bit of a snap count against the Cowboys. I think those restrictions get loosened a little bit this week against the Titans, and I think it only raises Stroud's profile, which needed to be raised.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, he went through like a 5-week stretch with 2 total touchdown passes. That Packers game where he threw for like 100 yards. He's going to have better games now. It may not be like last year's peak, in part because the defense and the running game is better. But, I still think there's some better days ahead for him.
Other than Dalton Schultz and obviously Joe Mixon, I mean, those are really your 3 big weapons for Stroud, right? Because those 2 have been terrific, and now you've just got a game-breaking wide receiver in Collins back. That seems to be the 3-headed monster that works best for fantasy owners.
Exactly. And, I think Mixon will find a little tougher. Jeffrey Simmons and company do a decent job of stopping the run. But, man, he looks so good. And it just illustrates that scheme and blockers matter so much that we kind of thought after last year, Mixon might be, if not washed, definitely declining. And he's disproved that pretty convincingly this year.
Jeff Erickson with us from RotoWire as we continue here on Sports Talk. If you've got questions, send them to us right now at Twitter and X at 600 ESPN El Paso. How concerned should fantasy owners be with Brock Purdy's shoulder injury, or a sore shoulder, we should say?
Enough that we should track his practice reports this week. It's something that definitely bears watching. We saw that the Niners are, speaking of having trouble finishing games, the Niners are that a little bit. Now, granted, he didn't have George Kittle, he didn't have Brandon Ayuk. Juwan Jennings played his butt off there, but it's worth watching. Purdy was limited in practice today. That's not surprising. They kind of hinted that would be the case. The Wednesday practice is the least important of the three practices, obviously. So we'll watch his activity level both tomorrow and Friday, determine what his status is heading into the weekend against Green Bay. Weather might be an issue for that game too, a little bit. So we'll watch and see on that one there. A lot of colder weather, some flurries possibly in the Midwest are happening this weekend. Thursday night game, there's going to be possibly some snow in Cleveland too.
More quarterback news. It's a crazy situation in New York with both the Giants and the Jets, but now it's the Tommy DeVito show. Forget Drew Lock as your backup quarterback. They go right from 1 to 3. They bench Daniel Jones for the rest of the season, demote him to third string. Players didn't like it. Meanwhile, Tommy Cutlets is back in New York, and I'm so interested to see what DeVito can do since the Giants are giving him essentially a 6 or 7 week audition to see if he can actually be their starting quarterback for 2025.
I think we all remember the primetime game where he had some nice throws and all that. We forget that he had other games that weren't so great. And so I'm kind of lukewarm on DeVito. I understand what the Giants are doing, especially on the Daniel Jones part, because if he gets an injury, any sort of injury during a team activity from now until March, basically, his 2025 contract becomes guaranteed. It's the Derek Carr situation all over again. But you know what? Jones played himself into that, and he's taken home a bunch of guaranteed money, so I don't really shed any tears for him. But the Drew Lock thing's interesting.
Yep.
I understand why the Giants did it, but I think it's penny wise and pound foolish to bench it, to leapfrog a guy simply because he has these contract playing time incentives as a backup quarterback, someone that hasn't made a ton of money in this league, doesn't have the massive signing bonuses, isn't set for life necessarily like Jones is. If you're a putative free agent looking to sign with, the Giants or Team X, you're going to solve for X if that other team is willing to just, not mess around playing time just on the basis of what your contract says. I think it's a bad sign. Now, if you say that, okay, DeVito beat out Locke, that's one thing, but that's not what happened here. And I think the Giants were pretty explicit about it.
Yeah, they gave him a $5 million 1-year contract to be the backup quarterback, and I don't believe that the $5 million was really filled with incentives. You know what it is? I think here it is, Jeff. I feel like they know kind of what they have with Drew Lock. At least they feel like they do. They feel like he is a backup quarterback, but there is still the added curiosity if Tommy DeVito can actually lead this team as a QB1, and if so, maybe they don't go out and go get themselves a quarterback, even though they're going to have probably a top 5 overall pick when the draft starts. So maybe they want to evaluate DeVito because they already know that Locke is what he is.
I guess.
I mean, that was maybe. That's my best answer. I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about either.
Locke has been vetted around the league before, so I see it. I shouldn't cry too much for Drew Lock. I mean, he had he was a first-round pick at one point in time, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So his first contract was okay as far as rookies go, but still, he's not got a ton banked compared to other players. But I think those things on the margins matter a little bit there. I think they're not viewing DeVito whether he can be their starter next year so much as can he be a backup for them next year. Because he can't carry the water for a playoff team unless they're just completely tearing it down to the studs next year, which I don't think they're going to do, but we'll see. I think the Jets might be tearing it down to the studs sometime soon. I mean, all the whispers coming out of that Jets camp, I mean, that Woody Johnson wanted to bench Rodgers back in September.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, listen, I'm a Jets fan, man. That is dumb. I mean, Woody Johnson sucks as an owner. Let's be honest.
Yes, he does.
God.
There's a lot, but then again, there is a very, very active race to be the worst NFL owner, Steve. I mean, we could do owner power rankings, and there would be about 25 bottom 5 owners, I think.
Oh.
You got Jerry Jones, you've got Mike Brown, you've got Tepper in the Carolina, you've got all the the Haslams, for crying out loud. There's a lot of people not covering themselves with glory here when it comes to owning franchises.
That's so true. But look, I'm going to say this in defense of Aaron Rodgers, all right? The guy's coming off a major Achilles injury, so his mobility, which was never great to begin with, is even worse, which means your number one goal this offseason should have been to surround him with the most rock-solid offensive line that you can find. Not going after 37-year-olds, hoping to discover the fountain of youth again, but going out and giving him the kind of line that could, A, open up holes in the running game, and B, most important, give him time to throw the damn thing so he doesn't have to release the ball a half a second after he gets it because he's worried he's going to get drilled by some defensive lineman or linebacker.
Did you like the Tyron Smith signing when it happened, though?
I mean,
I kind of did. I thought that was like, okay, they're making a good faith effort here. I mean, was it injuries holding him back, or was it that he's just too old? I mean, that I think that's a legitimate question. When Smith was at his best, he was
rock solid, rock solid. Yeah.
I think everybody thought going into this season that this offensive line would be better than it was last year. And low bar to clear, I understand. But nonetheless, I think that, it was expected. I think it was widely expected to be a better offensive line. I think it is a little bit of a better offensive line, but it's much like the Bears, where, a little better still might not be good enough. And we're still not necessarily very good at judging what makes a better offensive line. We look at names. We can look at PFF grades. Sometimes making those parts fit might be a trickier part. I mean, obviously, the NFL is hard. It's hard in every way, shape, and form. Whether it comes to drafting, whether it's free agents. I think they at least tried to improve that line.
Oh, I don't disagree. But trying to improve the offensive line and signing Tyron Smith, I mean, you could have gone after somebody that was 10 years younger, at least someone that's
he's 33.
I thought Smith I thought Smith was 37. Now is he 33?
No, I just looked it up. He's 33. Okay. Because I knew when you said 37, I knew that's who you were referring to there, but. I just think there's a limitation to how many great ones or even very good ones were out there on the waiver wire or on the free agent market too. It's interesting though, but they did prioritize other things. I just think it all starts with Rodgers too. I mean, he's got a huge cap hit.
Sure.
He's bringing in his people.
Look, I'm not gonna give him a pass. All right, you're right. He brought in his offensive coordinator, who was horrible. Nate Hackett was terrible. Brought in all his guys from Green Bay. It hasn't worked out. But I thought, worst case scenario, they would still be far better than this. I mean, this is beyond my comprehension that they could be this terrible of a football team right now.
Yeah, 3 straight weeks under 300 yards. I will say the offense looked unlocked in the second half. I thought the offense played very well in the second half. The problem was the defense can't get stops now. This world-class defense that they had coming into the season is suddenly terrible ever since the Robert Saleh firing.
Think about this. They're 3-8, right? The defense has cost them at least 2 games late in the games this season, and their kicking game has cost them another 2 games. You take those 4 games away, that's a 7-4 football team right now. I mean, that's what's so mind-boggling is that as bad as this season has gone, if they just had a couple of things go right, we're not even talking. We're talking about them being a playoff team right now.
Now do the Bengals, and you'll see how frustrating it gets too. New and inventive ways of losing. Look at the talent. There's a unifying thread here, too. You're wasting prime years of Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. The Bengals are wasting prime years of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is going to be gone after this year, almost certainly. The Burrow wasting this Burrow Chase season, that's a crime.
Yeah.
They're playing so well. I mean, you just watch like the plays that Burrow made in the second half of that game against the Chargers, and you're like, how they're doing such a disservice to those two players. And part of it is that Burrow is getting paid, so maybe they feel like they can't pay everyone. But this is also the Bengals who had cap room, let Jesse Bates go 2 years ago, and let DJ Reader go this offseason because he wasn't available enough, brought in Sheldon Rankin, who isn't available enough and isn't as good. It's just little things like that. Mike Brown is paranoid about these second contracts. This is something that's happened for decades as Bengals fans, and I thought they had turned a corner. They haven't. And I know this was Jets talk, and I turned it into Bengals talk. I apologize about that. I have a bad habit of doing that, but there are a lot of parallels.
By the way, I hope Zach Taylor doesn't get fired because I don't really blame Zach Taylor for what's happened to this team this season. I really don't.
I don't 100% blame him. I don't think he's blameless either.
Yeah.
Little things like the way they commit penalties at the wrong time, the decision-making. He calls all the plays. So, like the home game against the Ravens, remember, Lamar Jackson gifted them that fumble. They didn't stop Lamar Jackson. Jackson stopped himself one time on that fumble, and the Bengals went into a shell. They ran it up the middle 3 times, tried to count on a 53-yard field goal attempt, which also started McPherson's downward spiral. And that wasn't McPherson's fault in that particular game, but because it was a bad snap, bad hold, or just a bad hold, if I recall correctly. But it's just, I know kickers are better, but come on, playing for the 50-yard field goal, You've got this stud quarterback. He made one mistake all game, and you take the ball out of his hands. Don't get it. Yeah, he gets some of this blame too, and the fact that the Bengals never seem to be ready to start the season. So that's got to be coaching a little bit too.
Great question from Adrian coming in on the show. He wants to know, Jeff, who would be your top rookie quarterback, top rookie running back, and top rookie wide receiver so far going into Week 12?
Okay, so quarterback, it's changed. The answer has changed, right? Or at least it's gotten a lot closer. It's Daniels versus Nix, and Nix has really kind of raised his game to make this an actual question, whereas 3 weeks ago it was like, shoe-in market here for Rookie of the Year and best rookie quarterback. Brock Bowers is making a case for Rookie of the Year too, by the way. He's just so darn good. Rookie running back, we've gotten very little out of rookie running backs this year. I guess is maybe Tyrone Tracy.
I'd
I'm
probably
trying to think of any other running backs, rookie running backs that have made a big impact.
Bucky Irving has been interesting. He's been interesting.
Yeah, that's a good one too. The fact is, though, we're straining for this. There's not an obvious one like there are some years, and that was reflected in the draft, and we're seeing it now. It's what's made this season pretty hard. By the way, is that we just. There's not much turnover this year. Like we thought, Blake Corum's going to rise at some point. Trey Benson's going to rise up at some point. That hasn't happened. Ray Davis had his one game in the sun. Tracy's leading rookie running backs, I think, with 545 rushing yards. So I'll go with him. But wow, I mean, it's not obvious. That's kind of interesting there. Brian Thomas is probably the rookie receiver. He's just stuck on a horrible situation though in Jacksonville. He'll probably lose ground over the stretch just because he's got Mac Jones throwing it to him. I assume that's going to be the case after the bye, the way Jacksonville was talking about that. Ladd McConkey's making a run, though. He's really good. Neighbors is obviously awesome, but, he's missed 2 games, and now he's got, Tommy DeVito throwing the ball to him. So what's he going to be able to do doing that? We have some really neat receivers in this class, though. And, we're going to see better years from those guys, even if they're not amazing this year. They're definitely going to have these. This was a year that you wanted to accumulate some of these wide receivers in this draft.
So true. All right, let's talk about what you've got going on right now at rotowire.com. Of course, your Week 12 value meter. What else for us, Jeff?
As always, it's a big week for free agents. We talked about the bye week, so we have like 3 different waiver wire articles, including Dan Marcus's deep waiver wire column there. Highly recommend you check that out. Check out our podcast too. Just search wherever you get your podcast. Just search RotoWire. If you want to go on YouTube, we have tons of content there, long form and short form. So please check that out. Search RotoWire there wherever you get that content, and we'll be happy to help you out.
Fantastic as always. Great job, Jeff. Enjoyed the misery session between the Bengals and the Jets. And we didn't even get a chance to talk Cowboys, believe it or not, which would have been even more depressing.
Cowboys?
Oh.
Yeah. Next week. Thanksgiving next week, so we'll have plenty to talk about.
That's right. Nothing like having some dry turkey talking about the Cowboys. I like that. That sounds good to me. All right.
Right on.
Take care, Jeff. We'll talk to you.
You bet. Take care.
Jeff Erickson, rotowire.com as we continue. Follow him on Twitter and X at Jeff_Erickson. 19 in front of 7. We'll come back, check in with Adrian, and then still to come, Lane Frank popping in to our 600 ESPN El Paso River Oaks Properties Schoolyard Sports Studios. Always enjoying his visits every week. We'll do that as well right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. All right, 49 past the hour. As we continue here on Sports Talk, you know, if you're a sports fan looking to win some money while watching sports, I've got news for you. Underdog is the place to play. With their pick'em game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, touchdowns, three-pointers, double-doubles, all of that. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from, and Underdog even puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep riding with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. And the best part is every day Underdog has something good to play. In fact, I'm looking right now. I'm on the app. I'm checking out the NBA, and I'm looking at Tyrese Halliburton, higher than 8.5 assists. Also, Jalen Brunson, higher than 7.5 assists. Those are some of the players you could play tonight in the NBA. I love that. In fact, this season, Underdog will be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like profit boosts. Pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. Discounts. You'll get adjusted projections on certain player stats to give you a better shot at a big W. Free picks. They're basically a sure thing. A player just has to get higher than half a point for, let's say, yards in football for that pick to win. Plus, all new users get a free pick. Download the app, sign up with promo code KLAQ, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code KLAQ. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Let's head back right now to my main man, Adrian Broadus. He is back. He is hanging out at Raising Cane's in East El Paso. In fact, he's out at 1887 North Zaragoza Road along with Iris Lopez as they are going to be drawing winners for an opportunity to win free canes for a year. What a deal that is. 10 amazing years in the Sun City, and they are giving back for the Raising Cane's 10-year celebration here in El Paso. Adrian, we spoke to you earlier in the hour. How are things going right now out there in East El Paso at Raising Cane's?
Yeah, the band is just finished out here in East El Paso now. The music is playing. The vibes are great. Our friends from X are out here. Our friends from the Horizon City Police Department are out here as well. We also saw actually Sergeant Eli. He stopped by and he said hi. He wanted to let us know that he was listening in on the program. Horizon Fire Department is stopping by as well, and they're out here. And then, Steve, you're going to love this one right here. The El Paso Rhinos, 2 members from the NAH3L team, Tommy Shore and Owen O'Rear. They stopped by. They gave us some tickets. They are really excited about their upcoming matchups against New Mexico, and that's November 29th and December 1st. They wanted to stop by, say hi, and tell us that they're really excited about this season. These 2 guys are from Chicago, Steve, so cool that they are out here in El Paso playing hockey, and they said that their experience so far with the Rhinos has been exceptional.
I love that, and by the way, I hear that they're playing your theme music in the background, Adrian. I don't know how you pulled that off, but it definitely feels like they're getting you in the mood during this show right now.
Yeah, they definitely are. I like the theme music. I like that a lot. I think it just needs to stay permanently out here, but that's what it actually is. It's a party out here in East El Paso with Raising Canes. A lot of people have registered already for Canes for a year, but you have to be present in order to win. So they're going to pick 10 winners when it's all said and done, and it's happening at 7 o'clock.
Oh, I love that. I think that's really a lot of fun. How about the crowd? How is everybody in East El Paso? Are they starting to gather? Is it getting a little crazy out there at Raising Cane's?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot of families out here, Steve. It's a great family atmosphere. There's been a lot of parents, kids stopping by our booth saying hi. They've been stopping by and definitely recognizing Iris Lopez over here, which is excellent. And so whether it's our KISS FM crew or our 600 ESPN El Paso crew, it feels great to be out here.
I'm excited for you. We'll check back in with you a little bit later in the show. And as always, Adrian, appreciate the opportunity to give us the lowdown from the 10-year celebration. All right, that's Adrian Broadus as we continue here on Sports Talk. When we come back, he's back. Lane Frank, Schoolyard Sports, our weekly chat is coming up next right here at 600 ESPN El Paso. Here we go, start of our final hour on the show. It's a rare day today, 3 hours. What did we deserve to have 3 hours with you today instead of 2, 2.5, 2 1/4, 2 and 10 minutes? Well, no, we get the full show today. I'm excited about that. In fact, we've got George Guajardo, we've got Alberto Urueta, and we have the one and only Lane Frank, who is with us as well. Adrian Broadus will join us in just a little bit. We'll get his thoughts out at Canes and Zaragoza as we come your way live from the aforementioned River Oaks Properties Schoolyard Sports Studios. In fact, River Oaks Properties is the largest commercial real estate development and management firm in El Paso. It started in 1959, and man, have they grown. Over 190 properties, 1,000+ tenants, 6.6 million square feet. They've got properties all over town. If you would like more information on how you can join the River Oaks Properties family, just go online to ROPElpaso.com. That's ROP, like River Oaks Properties, elpaso.com. And with that, we welcome back Lane Frank, who came bearing gifts, by the way. Great to see you. And special shout-out to the one and only Choppy himself, Coach Juan Orozco, for delivering a beautiful-looking Coronado baseball cap, something that I will be getting a chance to wear as the season gets underway here in a couple of months. Excited about the chance to rock the Coronado gear. Between Choppy and Coach Mike Pry a couple of weeks ago, I finally have some Coronado T-Bird gear to be wearing around town.
They're finally bringing you back to some mold. You're a real respected alum now, I'd say, Steve.
Really?
I'd say so.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I haven't gotten a single phone call from Coronado High in years. I probably will once my son starts to go there. But the fact that Choppy showed a little love and so did Coach Pry makes me feel really good. That is a great gesture from both, and I'm excited about this. Baseball season's around the corner. I've played in the alumni game for Choppy and Coronado baseball over the years, so it's exciting.
They let people who got cut play in the alumni game? I didn't know about that.
Oh, you're such a tool sometimes. But yes,
I get why Alberto playing it. He played in the team.
Wow.
I don't know about you.
I played, and by the way, for the record, I did not get cut. An injury forced me out my junior year, and that is. And by the way, you should be happy about that. Because if that injury doesn't take place, we're not talking today. Because I'm not in journalism, I'm not on the radio, and I'm not doing this stuff. So thanks to that injury, my baseball career came to a premature end, and the sports journalism career came to an early start. So everything works out for a reason, doesn't it?
So you're telling me you would have played baseball for your life if you didn't get cut?
Oh, guaranteed. I would have played college ball somewhere. Would have had a chance to play some. I would have been one of those guys that probably played semi-pro ball for 20 years. Made no money. Probably was living in some shack. Who knows where the hell I'd be living.
And 2 homers a year, buying 210, thinking you can make the majors.
Exactly. So, keeping the dream alive, baby. Keeping the dream alive. That's what it would have been.
Yeah, baby.
So it's okay. It's like you someday. You'll probably be 50 years old. Maybe you'll go out, if you're lucky, hit a couple of tennis balls, talk about the good old days, about how you were at Coronado playing on the varsity team as a freshman, and then your kids don't care. They don't want to hear any of that crap from you. That's what's going to happen when you get older, Lane. You'll try telling those same stories, and, your kids aren't going to want to listen to that. They're going to be like, Dad, we don't care. Just, take us shopping.
Have better stories than that, probably.
You think so?
We'll see.
What do you think the best story? That's a great question. When you have kids and your kids are kind of becoming teenagers, what do you think the best stories you will have? Will it be talking about all these celebrities you get to interview every year during the Pump Brothers, or you think they're not going to be impressed with that?
Probably
what about
art chats I'll talk about, because they'll know about all that stuff. I'll talk about art chats together.
You think they're really think they care about that? Come on, stop it.
I think this is the most enjoyable thing of my week. One of the most enjoyable things I do.
By the way, it is the most enjoyable. That I completely agree with. Finally, we agree on something here. And here's the other cool thing. Who knows how many of these schoolyard sports shows you're going to have before you decide to call it a career? Like, you could have over 1,000. You're already up to 192 this week. You could have 1,000 episodes, a whole library for your kids to look at and see 12-year-old dad when he started on this and how you elevated up through your teenage years. That is like an archived history of your life. That's good stuff.
It's good stuff right there, Steve. Yeah.
Well, I gave you that build up, and that's all you have. That's it. One little agreement where you say speak for 3 seconds. Yeah, that's good stuff.
I'm here to talk sports, Steve. Let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Let's get into it.
What do you want to talk about today?
Let's talk college football. I really want to pick college football games against you.
Are we going to talk about Michigan and the season they're having?
So Michigan's season hasn't gone great, but there's a lot to build off of. A really good recruiting class coming up. I'm really excited for that. They got another big 4-star recruit today. Teammate of number 1 player in the country, Bryce Underwood, who also could be very well making his way soon from decommitting from the Bayou and LSU, and head over to the Michigan Wolverines. That's something interesting right there. So the focus isn't on this year, even though I am still excited for this weekend's game in the Ohio State game, which I think Michigan can still win.
Explain something to me, because as you've said on this show since you first came on, you know more about college football than anybody in the country. It's a
fact.
And by the way, because of that, we are lucky to have you. Because anybody that knows what you know should be someplace else. You should be on ESPN National, College Football Game Day, or you should be on Fox, whatever. But you're here with us. We're fortunate to have you when you have your downtime from Coronado High School and all the other things you're doing in your life. Okay, that being said, how does Indiana have a team right now that's undefeated going into their game against Ohio State at Columbus? Now, forget Michigan. Let's talk about Indiana. This is a team that never is relevant in college football, but now they are. How did this happen?
You know, I'd say our little good buddy that we met a few weeks ago, Bob Steinfeld, you remember him?
I do. What a guy.
What a guy. What a guy. Oh, he loves himself.
Yes, he does. Even more than others that I know. Go ahead. What else?
He said that Indiana, and I thought he put it nicely, the only nice thing he put, that Indiana football chose production over potential, and that's why they're playing so well. The players they got from the transfer portal, they went off what they've done in their college ball career, not what they could do, and that's why they're playing great.
Yeah, that's probably a good case study there. I'm sure Bob Steinfeld could tell us all about himself, let alone Indiana. But
he could probably make up a story how he roped in all the transfers and everything.
Yeah, I think so too. He was responsible for putting this 10-0 team together. That reminds me, okay, we've got a lot of college football. We have a lot of ranked games this week. We also have UTEP in Tennessee.
We do have UTEP in Tennessee. I was going to go to that game.
Why are you not going to that game? Because that would have been the game to go to.
You know, it really would have been. You know, Tennessee coming off a loss really could be a close game now. But also UTEP is 1-9. It's been a tough season for them. I see no upset happening here. I think 41 is way too low of a spread. Let's go Tennessee by 60.
Tennessee by 60.
I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I will be, Steve.
Man, let me say this. I got a feeling it's going to be ugly. Now, here's the thing, okay? I have loved UTEP's defense all season. I really have. They've kept them in games. But my bigger concern right now is this. The defense is probably going to be gassed by halftime because God knows how long they're going to be out on the field.
It'll be 45-0.
It could be. But then you wonder, if Tennessee calls off the dogs in the second half, how many points do they score? 20 in the second half? Probably. So that's 65 points. What is UTEP going to get out of this? 7? 10, maybe?
Tennessee's the best defense in the country. I think UTEP gets shut out.
Do you really? You think they could lose 65-0?
I do.
The over-under is 52.5. Do you like the total over?
I do. I think Tennessee gets the over.
All right.
All the Tennessee points.
Yeah, I'm not.
Has UTEP won a game since Kennesaw State? Have they played a game since Kennesaw State?
No, they're on a bye week last week.
So, one game win streak. Tennessee, 1 game losing streak. Things can happen.
Yeah, sure.
Tennessee's looking forward to hopefully a playoff chance, but that might have died on Saturday.
How about what New Mexico did last weekend with Bronco Mendenhall knocking off Wazoo, which was a big one for them?
It's really interesting that Bronco Mendenhall is at Virginia or at New Mexico now. He was a really good coach of Virginia, brought them to the ACC championship game a few times. Then he decided to leave coaching. Lead a different life. Comes back into coaching with New Mexico, and they pulled off a huge win last week. Causing some playoff chaos. I feel like if Washington State won that game, they ran the table. They could have maybe caused some crazy playoff chaos if some things happened with that 11-1 record of theirs that they would have had. But no, New Mexico got the win. Great win for them. And for the people saying, why can't UTEP get a win like that? Do you really care for a win like that against a team that has a good record? Doesn't mean they're a good team because they played nobody. I wouldn't call that a great win. You want to hear something interesting, Steve?
Listen, it's a great win. When you knock off a top 25, and I do want to hear something, so don't worry, I'm not going to just blow you off like Steinfeld did. But let's not talk about that now. When New Mexico wins their first ranked game in like 22 years, I mean, that's against a ranked opponent. That's a big deal for them. I'm happy for them. And by the way, before Virginia, where did Bronco Mendenhall first make a name for himself?
I know it. I definitely know it.
Come on, man. You're the smartest college football guy in the country.
You gotta give me a hint, Steve.
This. What's that?
You gotta give me a hint.
BYU.
I knew that.
Damn it. We didn't have to give the
I knew
answer.
That. I knew it was BYU.
George,
beat him to it.
He asked for a hint, not the answer. I mean, look, this is
I knew it was BYU.
Can I say this?
Oh,
Listen,
now he says
George
he
is
knew.
interning
We didn't
with us.
know.
That's the first time his mic has been hot all show. He was chomping at the bit.
Sports genius over here.
And look what he does.
It was only
he
fair. He
spits
got it
out
right off
the
the bat.
answer to you. I was going to give you a good hint to see, but he just threw it out there like that. How does that happen?
I don't know how that happens.
I don't know either, but it did. So Bronco Mendenhall made a name for himself at BYU. He was a legend over there. They were amazing. And then he goes to Virginia. You talked about the ACC championship. Now he's at New Mexico. The point is, he's like a Mike Price was at UTEP, an experienced head coach who knows how to win at this level, comes in and immediately is turning things around the way Jerry Kill did in the middle of his first season at New Mexico State. A lot of similarities between those two.
I agree. Steve, the interesting thing I was going to say was, when was the last time UTEP played Tennessee?
6 years ago.
2018, yep. And that was actually a really good game. It came to my mind right now. I'm like, I remember UTEP playing Tennessee 6 years ago. It was 10-0 in halftime. Tennessee didn't score more than 7 points in a quarter.
Yep.
UTEP lost a respectable 24-0. Maybe if UTEP had a little bit of offense, Kyle Loxley really did nothing at UTEP ever. But, if UTEP had an offense, that could have been a game.
Tennessee was down at that point, but you're right. That was a good performance.
Tennessee's
by the
Tennessee, SEC's SEC. You know
what?
UTEP to do that, not bad.
You know what Austin Peay did against Tennessee last year? They made it a real good game through the first
They really
half
did.
when
Trey
Scotty was
Goodman-
here. That's right.
Trey Goodman had a great touchdown in the fourth quarter. They were playing well in that game.
They were playing well. Maybe Scotty's got a little magic for that one to at least keep it respectable. Nobody's expecting UTEP to win, but forget that. How about just not getting blown out by 65 points like you just predicted here on the show?
But knowing Scotty, he wants to go there. He's going to hype up his guys. He wants a win. Let's just see if that can get a huge upset right here and happen.
Okay. Adrian's over at Canes. He wants to talk to you. He's got something he wants to bring up to you before we go to break. So
Let's hear it.
should we give Adrian the opportunity to chime in on this show and see what he's got to say?
Of course, let's see how it is.
All right, Adrian, it's all yours. Go ahead and throw one over at Lane Frank.
Lane, I know you like to talk SEC. I know you like to talk a lot of Big Ten. I got to stay with the group of 5 teams. FAU rumored to being in the mix with Ray Lewis, another former player, maybe turning coach. Your thoughts on that? Do you like the move? And should more teams take a chance on former players and make them coaches?
Yeah, so I saw that report, Adrian. Actually, I don't think that's going to happen because it said FAU currently has no interest in Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis wants the job. FAU doesn't want Ray Lewis. A more reasonable option would be Charlie Wise Jr., current offense coordinator at Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin came from FAU to go to Ole Miss. It's a perfect combination. Lane Kiffin could set him up perfectly at FAU. I think that is what's going to happen, not Ray Lewis.
All right, there's
I like
the
it.
answer.
Do you feel like another former player would get a chance at another of these head coaching openings? There's going to be a lot of openings, and if it's not this job for Lewis, maybe he gets another one.
I think so, but I think Lewis would be better off starting at maybe the FCS level, kind of like how Dion did at Jackson State and HBCU. That might be the better start for Ray Lewis.
Nice. Okay.
By the way, good job, Adrian. Speaking of Dion, Will he be a package deal with Shador after the season, and is he going to the Cowboys to coach his kid? And is that what could be the next Dallas hire after what happens with Mike McCarthy?
Everybody's saying that. I don't think that will happen. I think that would be a bad mistake by the Cowboys and by Deion Sanders. You got a great thing going with the Colorado Buffaloes. You know how Jerry Jones is as an owner. Do you really want him to be your boss now, your official boss, where you have no real leeway with him, where you don't have real control like you do at Colorado? Colorado could care less what Deion does. They give him the money. He does what he wants with it. With the Cowboys, Deion has no say in anything.
Yeah, but Deion knows Jerry. He played for Jerry for years.
But Jerry needs that respect, and I think Jerry would be a little bit undermined by Deion.
But don't you think Deion would know exactly what he's getting himself into if he decides to go to Dallas?
That's why I don't think he would do it.
Where would he go? If he goes any place in the NFL, where is it?
If he goes any place in the NFL, it'd be wherever Shador goes, which would be Las Vegas.
Could you see him coaching the Las Vegas Raiders?
I could definitely see him coach the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think Antonio Pierce is ready to be a head coach. You look at head coaches in the NFL right now, it's not the guys who are the elite team builders. Maybe Dan Campbell is one of the only ones I can point at, the elite team builder. The rest would be great offense coordinators, great defense coordinators. I look at Antonio Pierce, I don't see a great offense coordinator or a great defense coordinator or really a great team builder.
Does Tom Brady even want Deion Sanders to coach his team since he is now a minority owner?
You think Tom Brady has any say what the Raiders do right now? I say no. He's a commentator. He does what he wants with that. I don't think he does much with the Raiders. More of an investment at this point. Mark Davis, he would love to have Deion run the show there.
You think so? Okay.
Mark Davis wants the big move. He had Antonio Brown. He had John Gruden. He'll go out there and get Deion Sanders.
Is John Gruden coming back to coaching next season?
Not in the NFL, but would love to see John Gruden on a college football field.
So you don't think John Gruden goes to the Jets?
That would be something right there. John Gruden, the Jets. Aaron Rodgers would love to have Gruden, but how much leeway, or not how much leeway, how much freedom, how much power do the Jets want to give to Aaron Rodgers now? Where he says, I want John Gruden. What if they're like, we don't care?
We don't even know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be back as a Jet next season. That's another story right now. They fired their GM. They got rid of their head coach. They might bring in they're going to bring in a whole new regime that might want to get rid of Aaron Rodgers and start fresh.
Maybe if you've got a rookie quarterback next year for the New York Jets, maybe John Gruden's just the perfect guy for that. But if I'm the Jets, I'm doing is I'm keeping Rodgers for one more year, and I'm drafting Quinn Ewers in the second round, letting him sit behind him for a year or two.
And let him groom under Rodgers.
I think that's the perfect plan.
Hey, by the way, how dumb is Woody Johnson wanting to bench Aaron Rodgers after that loss in September?
I don't think it's dumb at all. What have we seen from Aaron Rodgers that has improved after that?
For Tyrod Taylor?
He's serviceable. He's done something. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Aaron Rodgers gets his feelings hurt. If not, who cares?
You're not benching Aaron Rodgers after 4 games. You can't do that.
It's just the name Aaron Rodgers, but the play is looking like a little bit worse than the Tyrod Taylor type of player right now.
That's what happens when you have no offensive line to protect a guy that's coming off a torn Achilles.
Aaron Rodgers can't move.
Yeah,
he can't throw.
More reasons to go get yourself the best offensive line in the game.
We'll go get a guy who can run around, and that's Tyrod Taylor, until you can get an offensive line.
All right. We agree to disagree. I like that. When we come back, we're going to pick some college games. Are you also going to tell us what Schoolyard Sports 191 is going to be about, or 192?
192 is going to be about, we'll talk a lot of college football. We'll talk a little bit NFL. We got a lot of great NBA stuff in there. Look at this sharpshooter, Dalton Connect for the Lakers, having 40 points last night. It's going to be a great episode.
I'm looking forward to it. That'll be great. We'll come back for it. More with Lane as we continue. More with Adrian as Sports Talk rolls along. But first, let's go to Charlie 1 and get ourselves the traffic update. Oh, my God. Looking at Lane's face when he's listening to vintage AC/DC like Jailbreak, which is from 1974, this is Bon Scott, my friend. Now, I know that you've probably never listened to this kind of music at all in your entire life, because I don't think this is the kind of music your parents grew up on like I did. This stuff is the best, man. It is the best. I can listen to 70s rock and I am in my zone. So, you need to stop making faces when you listen to music and have an open mind.
My friend, it sounded like Satan was arriving when that song was playing.
Bon Scott is not Satan. What are you talking about? I mean, look, you're telling me about Satan, and yet you're listening to rap with some of the most filthy lyrics of all time, and you want to get it, and you want to throw AC/DC at me as saying that's satanic? Come on now. I know. Listen, I know what you like to listen to. You're all about Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar. That's not even it, Steve.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, only if you knew.
Oh yeah, who's your new go-to? Like what's
Kendrick
in your
Lamar's never been my go-to.
What is in your car right now? What do you listen to when you're driving up here? Because it sure as heck ain't this show. So what are you listening to?
Let's check. I don't even know if I have this show set up in my car.
Why not? You don't even have this radio station set up?
I don't think I have radio
What's
set up in my car.
wrong with you?
I don't think I have radio in my car.
Well, then get the app, and you can listen to it off the app, and it'll sound like you're in the studio with me.
I could definitely do that.
Please, there's going to be a quiz after this show. You better make sure you get all the questions right.
I know, my grandpa did send, quiz to everybody in the office.
Big shout out to Hall of Famer Jerry Rubin listening to us right now. He's out of town, but he's checking us out. So, Jerry, we wish you were back here with us, but hopefully we'll see you after the holidays. Lane Frank is with us right now. We're talking sports. 192. You've got a whole grab bag of stuff to talk about. That's going to be dropping. Is it dropping tomorrow or is it dropping Friday?
It'll be dropping Friday for sure.
Okay. You know what I forgot to put on right now? Do we have some action going on?
I think we do maybe have some action going on.
Ohio and Toledo is playing right now. Plus, Buffalo and Eastern Michigan. Do we have snow in any of the games tonight for the action?
I don't believe so.
No
believe
snow. That's what I was looking forward to. I wanted to see a nice white snowy field, but we don't have that. You ready to pick college games?
So ready to pick college games. I'm ready to win college games, Steve. And did I beat Bo Bagley last week?
Yeah.
I think I did.
Yeah, I think you beat Bo.
I think I did. I have the paper at my house, but I think I did. It was a bad week for both of us, but I think I got it.
Yeah, you had a rough week, which is one of the reasons why we're segueing over to college football this week.
I had a great week in college last week, surprisingly. Usually it's NFL I do better. In college, incredible. My hot takes last week. Best week of the year, Steve.
Even though you're 16 years old, I say the heck with it. You want to pick against the spread?
Let's do it, Steve. Let's go crazy. Let's pick against the spread. Let's do some gambling.
We are gonna live on the wild side right now.
Let's go.
This is great. I'm letting a 16-year-old pick games against the spread.
Let me get the app ready. Let me get the app ready, and we'll put it together.
Let's do it. I think that's fantastic. All right. By the way, you already gave us your thoughts on UTEP and Tennessee. You think UTEP will not cover the 41.5, and it will go over the 52.5 total. That's what you believe. That's your prediction.
I do. Let's go Tennessee.
All right. Let's talk Indiana, Ohio State for a second. This game fascinates me. It really does. Will Indiana lose for the first time this season? And if not, then they're a lock to be up, in the top four. They are currently fifth right now at 10-0. Ohio State is second at 9-1. Ohio State is, they are almost a 2-touchdown favorite. 13.5 points in Columbus. They are giving Indiana zero respect right now. Zero respect.
13.5 is a huge spread.
Huge.
Right here. It's in Columbus, which I understand, but the last time Indiana had a good football team, it was in 2020. They walked into Columbus and they lost by 7. I see the same exact thing happening in this game. Let's go Ohio State over Indiana.
But I agree with you in the sense that take Indiana and the 13.5. But go Ohio State to win, correct? Would that be your play?
That'd be exactly my play, Steve. And let's go with the over, too.
All right. Oh, I like that. You think it's going to go over 51.5?
Actually, no.
Under,
too much. Too many. Under 51.5.
All right. Well, there we go. I can tell that when it comes to these kind of predictions, these are a little new for you because you threw in first an over, then an under. I like that. That's good. All right. Let's go with another interesting game. I'm skipping Miami and Wake Forest because Wake is terrible. We don't want to talk about that game, do we? Miami's going to just trounce them. We know that.
Skip.
All right. How about this one? Florida just knocked off LSU, and they are back in the swamp to host number 9 Ole Miss. Now, despite the fact that Florida is 5-5 and coming off that impressive win over LSU, they are 10.5 point dogs to the Rebels. This game feels like it's like a trap here, Lane. They're begging you to take Florida and the 10.5 at home.
It's a big trap right game here for Ole Miss, but Florida is a completely different team with DJ Lagway at quarterback. I'll say that. Texas, they got killed by Texas because they had Aiden Warner playing quarterback. I think they could have had a really good game against Georgia, if not win the game against Georgia if DJ Lagway played. DJ Lagway wasn't fully ready when they played that Tennessee game, so that's 3 losses right there that could have maybe been avoided by Florida. I think this Florida team, with their schedule, with 3 losses, they could have made the college football playoff. Obviously, that's not a part of the equation anymore, but they're still a really good team. I think it's going to be a close game, but let's go with the Rebels.
Okay. By the way, I'm going to throw a what-if question at you. This is from Gator Richard, who wants to know, if Florida beats Ole Miss and then obviously beats Florida State and finishes the season 7-5 on their 3-game win streak, do you believe Florida gets into the top 25?
If Florida finishes the year undefeated, I think Florida gets into the top 25. If you finish 8-5, top 25.
Well, they would be 7-5.
7-5,
right?
but if you want a bowl game, 8-5.
Yeah, 8-5. So that would get them into the top 25.
It would.
All right. Now, SMU and Virginia. Any upsets brewing here, or is number 13 SMU going to move to 10-1 on the season?
Virginia's not bad this year, but let's go with SMU.
I'm with you. How about this game? Number 25 Illinois. You know that's where Dana Dimmel is right now. He's helping out.
Dana Dimmel's at Illinois.
Dana Dimmel is at Illinois. He's helping out with that offense. They are 25th in the country. They're 7-3. Is this a trap game going to Rutgers and taking on the 6-4 Knights?
I don't like Brett Bielema. I don't like Dan DeMel. Let's go with Rutgers. Greg Schiano to get the win right here.
Wait, you said you don't like Dana Dimmel?
Okay.
Really?
Well,
I thought you liked Dana.
I think Scotty's a better coach.
Dana's I like Dana. Wow. Scotty's a better coach. There. You heard it from Lane. That's all I can say. Bottom of the hour as we continue here on Sports Talk. All right, we're not going to talk about number 10 Georgia taking on UMass. That line is even worse than the UTEP game.
What is
That's it? Georgia minus 42.
So let's make a guess. Over or under? Who is who wins by more? Tennessee or Georgia?
Georgia. What do you think?
Tennessee.
Really?
I do. Tennessee. Look at Tennessee's schedule. The teams they've played. They have killed some teams this year.
By the way, Carson Beck played well last week. Are you more of a believer in Carson Beck the more you watch him?
Yeah, Carson Beck went up against the best defense in college football, looked terrible in the first quarter, then went out the rest of the game and played great, so that was a big game right there from Carson.
Okay. I don't expect Texas to have any trouble with Kentucky this week in Austin, do you?
Interesting thing right here, Kentucky, this is the farthest they've ever traveled west for a college football game.
Does it matter?
No, but it's a little bit interesting.
That is
Texas isn't too far west.
That's an interesting stat. All right. Let's talk about a game that also fascinates me, and it's not Penn State, Minnesota. I feel like Penn State's going to beat the Golden Gophers and improve to 10-1. What do you think?
It's a pretty tough pick right here because Darius Taylor, running back from Minnesota, he's not bad. This is a trap game in Minnesota. Don't expect Minnesota to win it. I expect it to be close.
Do you expect them to stay within the 12.5?
I do.
So you would say lay the 12.5 on the home team, Minnesota Golden Gophers.
I say let's do it.
Make a note on that, all right? Make a note on that. You took Minnesota in the points. All right. All right, this one also is going to be interesting. Number 21, Arizona, hosting number 14, BYU. ASU's 8-2. BYU is 9-1. Two top 25 teams playing in Tempe. Arizona State, 3-point favorites at home against the Cougars.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one right here. You've got former UTEP quarterback Jake Retzlaff going up against Arizona State. You can fact check that. Jake Retzlaff was once at UTEP.
Really?
Never took a snap at UTEP. Look it up.
Wait a minute.
Look it up. Jake Retzlaff, UTEP.
I've never heard this until now.
Look it up.
Really? Jake Retzlaff was on the UTEP team? He was a red shirt?
Kretz did not transfer. Could not play. Had an apartment and everything.
Wait a minute. Was he actually in El Paso for a year?
He was in El Paso. Not for a full year, I don't think, but at least for a spring.
Really?
Really. And then he went to BYU.
He went
Nice,
so
great.
wait, was Retzlaff going to be like the
You and I would have loved him. We would have had 3 Jews at this table.
well, that would have been that would have been pretty impressive. So instead he goes to BYU, that's the Jew capital of the world for college football quarterbacks, right? Go play in Provo. Makes a lot of sense.
Definitely doesn't make sense, but Bronco Mendenhall, maybe his buddy, you could say. Bronco used to be there.
That's true.
Well,
Now,
look
at you. You're a quick learner. You remembered after last segment. I like that.
But let's pick this game. So
Please.
Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, he's about 30 years old. I think he's the youngest head coach of college football. Second youngest is Scotty, I believe. So BYU is going to have trouble with this Arizona State offense. But I think at the end of the day, BYU eventually gets the win. BYU's the better team. There's chaos, though, if Arizona State wins this game. And let me tell you why.
Tell me. I like chaos.
Everybody thinks that, okay, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, and ACC, they all have automatic bids to the playoff. They don't actually. They don't. It's the top 5 are ranked conference champions. So say Arizona State wins this game, they'll make the conference championship game. They can win that conference championship game probably against Colorado, and then you're into the playoff, it seems like. But no, Boise State could still get in over you. Army could still get in over you if they're higher ranked conference champion. I think one last Boise State and undefeated Army, those teams get in over a Big 12 champion, Arizona State. But Arizona State, none of that happens right here. Let's go BYU.
All right, so BYU wins. Oh, hang on. Can we please bring Adrian back to the show? I want to know if Adrian has ever heard the whole Jake Retzlaff story, because that's a new one to me. I just found that out for the first time tonight. Adrian, did you know that piece of information that Lane so casually dropped during the analysis portion of this show?
Yeah, this is actually definitely correct, Steve. Retzlaff was a mid-season transfer for UTEP. He joined the team in January of 2022. So actually, Cade McConnell, our very own, will definitely know him. I asked Cade right now to give me the full Jake Retzlaff story. But Retzlaff came over from Golden West College. He also played at River City College, I believe, or Riverside City College. But he definitely played for UTEP over a spring, and then transferred before the season even started.
What happened? How come Retzlaff never stuck? Do we know why?
We don't know why. No, he threw for over 3,300 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I had to look up my own reporting to make sure that I had actually indicated this. And yeah, I posted a tweet back in January of 2022 announcing that he was a mid-year transfer for UTEP and they were going to debut him that spring. I don't even know if he played much spring ball for the Miners that year, but at least there's some record of it.
So from my knowledge, Jake Retzlaff Creds somehow didn't transfer to UTEP. They didn't let him in. UTEP didn't let the quarterback in. Jake Retzlaff, a little bit interesting right there. And he didn't play.
His credits didn't transfer?
Credits didn't transfer to UTEP.
How is that possible? Everybody's credits transfers to UTEP.
Preschool credits would transfer to UTEP.
Yes, that's right. So you're telling me Retzlaff didn't play in the Miners because his credits did.
Something must have gone on.
I need to get the story from your favorite head coach, former head coach Dana Dimmel.
Maybe that's why Dan Dimmel's at Illinois now. Maybe if he had Jake Retzlaff, he wouldn't be there right now.
Never know. Never know. All right. Good stuff.
But let's go BYU in that game. BYU, Jake Retzlaff.
All right. Will Kansas have any upset brewing against Colorado this weekend?
A little interesting. It's at Arrowhead Stadium, but no. Colorado rolls over Kansas. A little bit foreshadowing for Shedeur Sanders when he used to play at Arrowhead Stadium next year when he's a Las Vegas Raider.
That's right. Hey, let's skip ahead to the Army-Notre Dame game. That's going to be a fun one.
Game.
Notre Dame is 6th in the country. Army is 19th. Army is undefeated. Notre Dame is 9-1. Look, Notre Dame is a 15-point favorite. I know they had their way with Navy. Are they going to have that same ease with Army this weekend?
Steve, I'm looking at this right now. You know, I'm in New York this weekend. This game's at Yankee Stadium.
Maybe you need to go.
Maybe you should need to take a little trip down to the Bronx. It's going to be a really good game, I think. Bryson Daly, if he's healthy, is a really good quarterback for Army. He's a great runner, and he's a great passer, probably the best running quarterback in the country. Riley Leonard is also a very good dual-threat quarterback. Notre Dame has been on fire all season long outside of that one game. I expect him to continue that right here, ending Army's chance of making the playoff. Let's go Notre Dame over Army. Actually, let me rephrase that. Maybe Army could still somehow find a way, piece together a great year if they can win that conference championship game against Tulane, but let's go Notre Dame over Army.
When was the last time you were in the Bronx?
Yankee Stadium.
I mean, I know that, but
probably this summer.
Oh, so you went to a Yankee game this summer?
I did go to a Yankee game this summer.
Well, maybe you should go. Have you ever seen a football game at Yankee Stadium?
I've never seen
fun.
I think it's a really bad experience, though, if you see a football game at a baseball stadium.
Why?
It just, something goes on.
Well, it's just,
hard to see.
Hard to see?
Sidelines are weird. Football, I mean, the stadium's just placed weird. I saw Jake Butt. He called the Northwestern Ohio State game last week at Wrigley Field. He had a terrible view of the game. Terrible. He's the commentator.
Do you know that the New York Giants used to play at Yankee Stadium back in the 70s before they built the Meadowlands? That was their home. 50s, 60s, 70s. The Giants were that's where they played all their games. So they played, and the Jets played their games at Shea Stadium, which is where the Mets used to play back in the day.
Wow, never knew that, Steve.
Well, now you know. See, that's why you need me. I need to throw some good pieces of information. Any other upset specials brewing? I'm looking at all the rest of these games. A&M, Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, Boise, Wyoming, Missouri, Mississippi State, South Carolina gets Wofford this weekend. Nothing really intrigues me right now. How about you?
Nothing intrigues me too much. Alabama making the trip to Norman, Oklahoma. Can always get a little bit tricky. For the season, this was really circled as a really great matchup. Isn't anymore. I think the 13.5 spread, Alabama will go way above that, so Alabama will kill Oklahoma on the road. Texas A&M, Auburn. I think Auburn would be at least ill-advised if they weren't blasting this clip in their locker room all week of Mike Elko going, yeah, we're focused on Texas. I mean Auburn. That's exactly what he did. He said we're focused on Texas, immediately switched it to saying Auburn because they're playing Auburn this week. They play Texas next week. Looking a little bit forward. If I'm the Auburn coach, if I'm any Auburn coach, I'm telling that to my players all week. They're looking over you. They're skipping over you. Let's have a great win at home. Can it happen? No. Something to look out for right here.
Bulletin board material is what you're telling me. That's what we call that stuff. Bulletin board material.
It's bulletin board material right there, Steve.
I like that, Lane. That is good stuff. Hey, by the way, who's your front runner right now for the Heisman?
Front runner right now for the Heisman. A little tricky. It will never happen, but it should happen this year. Co-Heisman, Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Won't happen, though.
Hey, by the way, Ashton Genty, how good is he going to be when he translates into the pros? He's at Boise right now, and he's been terrific. Is he the kind of impact running back that could be that rare top 10 pick, considering most running backs in college are all drafted somewhere between rounds 3 and 5?
So Saquon Barkley was picked number 2 in 2018 draft, and he had a great start to his junior year at Penn State, but he really slowed down towards the end. Ashton Genty hasn't slowed down one bit this season. He still has been a front runner. So, no, Steve, I think Ashton Genty can go easily in the top 10.
You do. All right, breaking that trend then, because last year was just Jonathan Brooks, and that was it. Was it just a weak class of running backs last year in the NFL draft?
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks wasn't even a first-round pick. We haven't had a first-round running back taken in a while, Steve, so It's not really a first-round position, but maybe it is this year.
John, by the way, you mentioned Travis Hunter. How good is he going to be in the pros?
I'm just curious what position Travis Hunter will play, because I think if Travis Hunter should play cornerback, but things can always happen. You're not going to be able to play every single game, both positions. It'll be too hard, but maybe mix in a little bit receiver, a little bit of corner here and there. I wouldn't just say stick to one position.
Deion did a little bit of both during his NFL days. Yeah.
Did not know that.
Played a little receiver and played a little corner, so I played a lot of corners, so yeah.
Played a little outfield.
He did. Played for the Yankees and the Braves.
Played for Reds too, no?
Yeah, he did. Good. Look at you. Very nice. You know your Deion Sanders trivia. Good. All right. Once again, Lane Frank, folks, his in-studio visit is brought to you by our friends at River Oaks Properties. Again, the largest commercial real estate development and management firm in the El Paso area. Over 190 properties, over 1,000 tenants. You can check all of their great projects out, view their properties, and even contact them on their website, ROPElpaso.com. That is ROPElpaso.com. Lane, always great to see you. Next week, we'll play it by ear, see how things go. But if I don't get a chance to wish you and your family a happy... What do you mean? Why are you getting up? I haven't even gotten into the break yet. What are you doing? At least let me say
Happy Thanksgiving.
Let me say, I was going to right now. I wanted to say that if I hadn't had a chance to wish you happy Thanksgiving, I would. And you're already standing up like you're getting ready to leave, and I haven't even gotten into the break yet.
It's a radio show. They'll never know. That never happened.
It never did, huh?
Never did.
A little mulligan on that one? Fair enough. Happy Thanksgiving, Lane.
Happy Thanksgiving, Steve. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody in this studio that makes this great show work.
I love him. All right, he's Lane Frank, the host of the Schoolyard Sports Podcast. He's taping next. Get ready. 192 will be dropping here on Friday. We'll wrap it up next. Send it back to the one and only Adrian Broadus, and then John Teicher from Santa Barbara, UTEP, UCSB. A little more than an hour away right here on your home for UTEP basketball, 600 ESPN El Paso.